What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and if you haven't heard, BlizzCon recently just happened, and whether you are a retail fan, a classic Andy, or just a WoW fan in general, there is news for everybody right now. Content galore. What we're going to be talking about in today's video is the new expansion coming out December 31st or before, no official release date, 2024. Very exciting stuff. Let's get to it. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is my thoughts on the World Soul Saga and them breaking it into a trilogy. So they will be releasing 3 expansions over the course of time. I'm assuming a bit more rapid than we're used to. Probably within a year and a half will be a new expansion each time. The first one being The War Within, which we'll discuss much more in this video, Midnight, and The Last Titan. Now, the way I'm looking at this is it's like one big expansion, essentially. So when Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone came out, you knew there were going to be multiple books in that series. That's kind of what they're going for with the World Soul Saga, is you know there's going to be a continuation of that story, which I think is a good move. Now, onto the monetary aspects of it. You will have to buy each expansion separately. This is going to be more money in their pockets and more money out of your pockets. Now, this all comes off a bit greedy to me, but just like any Blizzard game, they do have 3 OnlyFans subscription models whenever it comes to new expansion or new content releases, with the first one being Base Edition or the Poor Person Edition, Heroic Edition, the Person with a Job Edition, or Epic Edition, which is the Streamer/Simp Edition. With the Epic purchase, you will get 3 days of early access to The War Within. This is a common trend that is building within the gaming industry. This is not a Blizzard isolated thing. Now, there are 2 perspectives to think about. The first one being the fan perspective. This is unfortunate and an ultimate L for the fans of the game. It's unfortunate we have to pay extra money when they could just move the game release 3 days earlier for the entire population. But from a business perspective, it makes the most logical sense. If people buy it, they'll keep selling it. If people sell you a turd and you buy the turd, they're going to sell more turds. That is just the way it works. That is the way of life. It is what it is. I'm very sad about it, but I understand why they do it, and I understand why the trend in the business is going to continue to trend towards this notion. The next thing we'll be talking about is the story in retail World of Warcraft. This has been a hotly debated topic for years in the retail WoW space. How are we going to get this train back on the rails, especially with Chris Metzenbeck? How is he going to save us from this disaster? Essentially, they are going to be redefining the story and focus more on the power of the characters and pursuit of justice with that power. Essentially, it's going to take Chris 3 expansions to fix the mess, but we will get there, and I am personally here for it. So where will we be going? The depths of Azeroth is the answer to that. The sword is finally being recognized. Don't let your memes just be dreams. Make them a reality, and so Blizzard are doing it. They are paying attention to the sword that was stabbed in by Sargeras in the Legion expansion, and that will take us to the depths of Azeroth. Further evidence suggests this based on the new WoW cinematic that just came out, where Thrall and Anduin are having a daddy-son chat about Anduin being in his feelings, where they stand next to the Sargeras sword in Silithus, and are basically talking about the voices that are happening from the center of Azeroth. Personally, I hope Anduin's story does take a turn for the better. He has been in his feelings for quite some time, probably since birth, and I guess I'm just a little tired of being in the world of counseling versus the World of Warcraft. The emotions is actually a good thing when used in proper spots. A good emotional pool is great for pivotal story points, but he has been in his emotions for some years now, and it's actually just kind of a boring story, in my opinion, at this point in time. So I'm hoping this talk brings him out of his funk, makes him the man. He looks a lot more grungier. I'm hoping that's where they're taking him. He has a very manly look to him, has a lot of scruff on his face, and it looks like he's ready to go to war again. With Anduin coming back from doing dailies in the Maw, we have a ton of different returning characters, the first one being Magni. Now, this guy has massive meme potential, so I'm here for it and ready for him to come back to heal the wounds of Azeroth. And since Sylvanas is busy sleuting around the Maw right now, we decided to bring her sister Illyria, which makes a lot of sense since she is attuned to the Void, and we have Xal'atath also returning, so the dagger from Legion is now unleashed. Everybody knew she was coming. This is highly predicted, so it makes a lot of sense for her to tag along since she's probably hearing these voices from Azeroth as well. So overall, I think the story is pointed in the right direction. As long as Blizzard keeps these characters on track and not trapped in their emotions terminally, I think I like the idea of going down deeper into Azeroth and and basically being able to talk to the planet. I think that's a very cool idea, and I like the idea of going back to old world zones like Northrend, like Kel'Thalas, and seeing all these things relived and reimagined. That's a good way to point us in a good direction to go. With every new expansion, we have new mobs and new zones, so let's take a look at those now. The first place we will be going to is Kaz Algar, so you already know that there's going to be little people when we get there. We have the Earthen Dwarves coming out of left field, basically broken into 3 different groups: the Unbound, Oathsworn, and Machine Speakers. These 3 different types basically have their own ideologies that they practice and societal norms. The area that the Eartherns live in is the Isle of Dorn. It's actually a pretty neat area. I like the city in the middle of the earth kind of vibe. It's a little oasis of sorts and has all these like different overgrown areas and just kind of beachy, like foresty vibe, and in a dark, dank cavern setting, which is kind of cool. And at some point in this expansion, we will unlock the Eartherns as an allied race for both factions, the Horde and Alliance. So this will be a cool change for the Horde, as this is a first dwarf type race in their race lineup. The next place we're going to be hopping into and delving deep into is the Ringing Deeps. This place kind of gives me an Iron Forge-esque vibe if it was abandoned. It has this overgrown plant life. You can see the forges, you can kind of see where there was life before, but now it's just kind of abandoned and left to rust on its own. Very cool looking subzone. The next race you'll probably be seeing a lot of is the Arathi. They are a light-based race, and they believe in extinguishing the darkness. The place they reside is a area called Hollowfall. Essentially, this is a biome that has a light crystal sticking out of the ceiling of the cavern that keeps everything alive, and all the plants, all the foliage kind of point towards this light as a second sun type scenario. When I first saw this, for some reason I thought it was the tip of Sargeras' sword, but it is actually just a crystal of light that powers the entire biome. The capital of this city is Merildar, and it kind of sits centrally in the biome itself. And the last place that we'll be going to explore is a place called Azj-Kahet. Very excited to check this place out. It is a Nerubian metropolis, essentially, where we will be seeing the Nerubian type mobs again. Roaches galore, lots of bugs, very nostalgic if you've been playing this game a while. There are a lot of new models that have been released for this, and they've been corrupted by Xalatath and Old God Milkies. They kind of remind me of the Naga storyline of basically an old god switching them into a different form. The Nerubians have officially gone emo, in my opinion. They have Guyliner equipped and are ready for the next My Chemical Romance release at a moment's notice. And the last thing we'll be talking about today is the dungeons, raids, and, God, you know it, baby, systems. So, hopping into it, we have 8 new dungeons. 4 of them you'll be able to experience while you level. 4 you'll be able to experience at max level, unlocking the heroic difficulty and mythic difficulty at max level. The raid is a place called Nerubar Palace. It is a 8 boss raid. It will take place in Azj-Kahet. It's obviously in the Nerubian area, and honestly this gives me Heart of Fear vibes from Mista Pandaria, with that bug void combo pack energy really coming off strong here. And ladies and gentlemen, let's talk systems, okay? Now the philosophy that they're going to be following for the Dragon Soul Saga is kind of extending what we did in Dragonflight, essentially focusing on the core elements of Warcraft itself versus power or things that we will eventually abandon altogether. So think example, Azerite power. This is a fantastic ideology in my opinion, which actually leads to lasting positive change for the World of Warcraft game, period. So the first system is a system called Delves. This is essentially a exploration of sorts for the Warcraft world instead of instance combat. It'll have 13 unique adventures that you can do with 1 to 5 players, and there's no need for the tank, healer, damage trifecta that they're normally used to. The actual balancing will adjust based on your party composition. I think this is great for kicking it with the boys and just trying to do some outdoor activities together, or partying up with a random group member. You don't have to worry about finding specific classes to achieve the end goal of that activity. In these adventures with the Dragon Scale Expedition, we'll basically be going around looking for treasures in the Kaz Algar region. So the perk of this is that you will be able to find good gear for your character, and it's going to provide seasonal content and a good outdoor experience, which is something the retail experience has desperately needed for some time. Now, when you do these adventures, they are adding an outdoor tab to the vault. So this is pretty big, right? I am 50-50 on this. I am happy about this because it is a super incentivized way to go out in the World of Warcraft and explore and party up with people to achieve end goals. But the downside is depending on the item level of the loot, this can get really out of hand. It could be ending up the optimal way to get geared, for example. If the gear is not absolutely best in slot, but just a good upgrade inside the vault, like heroic level or somewhere in between normal and heroic, then I think this is a fine change. I think it's a net positive. I just don't want it to provide mythic raid level loot or some top tier level loot that you can't obtain from doing difficult content, because I think we need to keep rewards a good scope of expectations, right? Just a quick little edit for you guys. They did confirm it is only heroic level loot at max that will be dropping from the vault, so nothing too bad. I'm actually very happy about this then. It is a massive incentive for people to go out there and do tour activities. Also, we get this fun little mount that we can customize in the world while we're down there doing these outdoor activities. More stuff to get us involved with the world is always a good thing. The next thing is something called war bands. So the idea behind this is to basically make more things account wide, right? I think this is a great thing. Retail WoW has a bloat of content, in my opinion. It has years and years overlapping on top of each other of different reputations, mounts, items, all that fun stuff. It's begging for something like a consolidation, essentially. It's just far too much content to not mash it together and make it account wide for all the players to share. Now, the first thing that's going account wide is the transmog. I think this is a fantastic addition after allowing white items to be transmoggable as well. So let's say you play a druid and next expansion you want to play a rogue. All those leather transmog items you accumulated on your druid will now carry over to the rogue. And the other thing that they're making account wide is the reputations for the war within. That is fantastic. Now, Blizzard, do it with the rest of the reputations, please. And the last notable thing in warbands that is account-wide, in my opinion, is the warband bank. It is essentially a bank between all of your alts, and you can pass items in between through this bank. It is a centralized bank, essentially. Awesome idea, so you don't have to mail back and forth. This will help alleviate a lot of people that are alt happy. We also have a new type of item coming in the game other than Soulbound and Bind on Equipped. It is the Warbound until equipped. These are going to be essentially better than average items. I'm assuming they're going to be Mythic 0 level quality items that you can pass between alts to catch them up, which is a great addition to get your alts back in the game and get them up to speed a little bit quicker. And the last system that they'll be adding into the game is something called Hero Talents. So what this is a mini skill tree inside of your normal tree that adds further customization. Each class will have 3 choices to pick from. 2 of those tree options will be available with each specialization that you pick. I don't really know why they didn't just allow all 3 to be picked for all specializations. I think it could add some very cool customization options and possibilities, but it is what it is, right? Essentially what you'll get is 10 talent points during the leveling process that you'll be able to put inside the tree. All of the trees have 10 points total, so you'll unlock the entire thing by the end of leveling. The choice in this situation is picking which type of tree you want to use with your specialization. That's where the game-changing aspect comes in and the choice comes in. I think this adds a unique game-altering play in a meaningful way, which does add some depth to the spec that you play. It seems like they're actually going in this direction of uniqueness with classes. When I think of Classic Plus and the Season of Discovery, we have rune engraving coming. It adds this uniqueness to the classes, so it seems like that's the tone or theme that they're starting to go towards, which I'm actually kind of interested in seeing it play out. Now, my overall opinion is that everything does look pretty good and like it's heading in the right direction. The story does have some work that needs to be done, but we do have 3 expansions to do it, and Chris Metzen at our disposal, so the roadmap is definitely there. These zones do look cool. The Isle of Dorn is probably my favorite from what we've seen so far. The dungeons and raids is good, but they're formulaic, right? Whenever you hear 8 new dungeons and 1 new raid, it's like PTSD, right? It's carved in the back of your cerebellum at this point. The delves do sound very interesting, and Honestly, anything that makes the world more alive and make you play in the World of Warcraft is something I'm always there for. Warbands, I also think, are a great start, but they need to add more stuff and make it account wide. If it makes sense to make it account wide, just do it, right? And I also think the hero talents are kind of cool too. I like that layer of depth. I like more choice when it comes to my games. That's why I'm kind of interested in rune engraving for the Classic Plus situation. I do hope they consider adding all three choices to each specialization. I don't know if they do it, probably because it would be a balancing nightmare, but this is just my theory craft brain going off and being excited about possible combinations and changes you can do to certain classes. Overall, it looks good. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I appreciate you.